Good morning to everyone. My name is Tommy Johnson. I'm with the Portland Regional Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to Eaton Peabody's Growth Basics for Business. This is our monthly breakfast seminar series, which provides a forum to gain useful do-it-yourself workplace solutions and insightful, actionable tips. Now, along with Eaton Peabody, I must thank our virtual sponsor, Anania Bailey, who you'll hear from today, for allowing us to bring you this event virtually for the entire season. I'd like to welcome you all today to our second Growth Basics for the calendar 2022, but this is our sixth installment of a 10-part series that goes from September through June. Today's topic, How Your Website Becomes Your Brand, is presented by Peter Anania and Dustyn Bailey from Anania Bailey, as well as Luke LaBree from Dennis Paper and Food Service. I want to point out that the topic continues another great season of topics, and like I mentioned before, we have well over 100 people registered for today. So thanks for helping us continue to break attendance records for this entire season. Now, like all of the Chamber's virtual signature events, today's presentation is free and will be recorded and made available for free replay on the Chamber's website and YouTube page. To keep up to date on all Chamber news and events, please visit our website, portlandregion.com, and check out our events page and sign up for our weekly email newsletter while you're there. Now, before we get to today's presentation, I want to remind you that if you have any questions for our presenters, please type them in the Zoom chat below, and I can relay them to our presenters either throughout the event or towards the tail end of the event. Now, at this point, I'd like to acknowledge our presenting sponsor for Growth Basics for Business, Eaton Peabody. For the past 3 years, Eaton Peabody has been the exclusive sponsor of the series, and this year, they're joined by Anania Bailey. Eaton Peabody continues their support this season as well, and normally I'd be inviting our good friend, marketing manager Nate Levesque, to say a few words, but he's unavailable to be with us today. On his behalf, I'll say that Eaton Peabody is a full-service law firm with multiple locations throughout Maine. If you'd like to learn more about Eaton Peabody, you can visit eatonpeabody.com. Now, with us today to present to you are Peter Anania and Dustyn Bailey, owners and principals at Anania Bailey, a full-service marketing agency. Together, they bring experience completing complex branding and advertising projects across a variety of industries, including education, hospitality, manufacturing, commercial construction, financial institutions, telecommunications, manufacturing, retail, and beyond. Also joining us today is Luke LaBree, the Chief Marketing Officer at Dennis Paper and Food Service. He spent the last 2 decades dedicating to crafting and fostering marketing experiences using his inspired design, creative strategies, and innovative technologies. As CMO, he oversees the design, development, and implementation of Dennis's marketing and branding positioning efforts. At this point, I'll hand it over to you guys. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. I want to thank Tommy and the Chamber for everything you guys do. They have a lot of events like this, a lot of networking, and a lot of advocacy as well. I've been following all the issues Chamber's been doing around advocacy in Portland, and it's really great to have a voice for small business and doing all the things that they do. So if you're not a member, we encourage you to join. I know we certainly get a lot from it. I'm also on the Westbrook Chamber, Westbrook Gorham Chamber. We have a lot going on in Westbrook. And we'd love to have you stop by Westbrook, or even consider if you're looking for a place to move your business or a place to call home. There's a whole lot of great stuff going on in Westbrook. To tell you a little bit about what we're going to cover today. First, we're going to talk about why your website matters more than ever. We got a lot of changing demographics, changing preferences going on, but really your website still is the foundation for your marketing efforts. So that's kind of where we're going to start. Dustyn's really going to talk about flexibility of your website as a medium to really complete your brand. And then we're going to talk about how your website is a place where you can build trust and bring value to your customers. Just a little bit of discussion on the format too. Dustyn and I are going to be touching on each topic, and I know Luke, you've got a ton of notes, so you're gonna chime in as well. But then after, we're just gonna throw it to Luke and say, Luke, how are you putting these things in practice with Dennis Paper? Because it's if you follow Luke, it's awesome how he's really using his website as that foundation for all of his marketing efforts. But just really quickly to tell you a little bit more about who we are. We're Anania Bailey. We're a full service branding and advertising firm. I'll just quickly go through 3 recent projects we've worked on. I don't know if you've seen the work Penobscot General Contractor has been doing. We recently just helped this company rebrand. They were the Penobscot company. We helped them through a slight name change, new logo, new brand, new website, new main biz ads. So a complete new brand identity. They're doing big things here in Southern Maine. So it was a project that we really loved working on. AC Yard Services. This is a local service company. They're a landscaper. They've been a client of ours for a while. Just helped them rebrand. What I love most about this new brand and website is it changes with the seasons. They're a full service, full season landscaping company. So that was just a really cool thing. And I also love that truck wrap. So Dustyn and the team did a great job on that. Just this last thing, I don't know if anyone's on the webinar with us and Jacques Santucci with Opus Consulting. We recently rebranded one of Jacques' clients. They are a cannabis retailer in Michigan. And we are actually rolling out the website now, but rebranded with a new logo. We'll be doing the packaging as well. And they're opening a very large manufacturing operation and retail out in Michigan. So yeah, we've been working on a lot of really fun projects lately, and we're excited to talk about some of that expertise that we have. All right, why does your website matter more than ever? So brand image has a big impact on visitor behavior for websites. Dustyn, I'm going to throw this out to you, and Luke too as well. Which furniture store would you buy from?
Definitely the first one, the more modern looking one. I don't think I've submitted payment information to a website that looks like the latter in a long time.
Exactly. So first impressions matter. And our brains are really wired to make decisions very quickly. This comes from evolution. We have to, as we evolved, we had to evaluate things very quickly, evaluate situations very quickly, evaluate people very quickly. So our brains are wired to evaluate situations extremely quickly. And this comes with the first impression of your website. So I thought this was just kind of a useful exercise to kind of get us started over kind of what we're talking about, how to make sure that your website really becomes and completes your brand.
Yeah.
Before we dig in too far about why your website is really the foundation for your marketing efforts, I wanted to just talk a little bit about social media and demographics and preferences for people when it comes to the different platforms that they consume media on. So this slide is from Edison Research Infinite Dial Report, and it just shows social brand usage really over time and what brands are preferred by people and how these preferences are changing. So we can see that there's a lot of change going on out there. As you can see from this graph, usage of Facebook is going down. TikTok is really exploding. Instagram, it's kind of slowly increasing. So preferences that people have out in the world are changing, what platforms people are on. But the one constant is really still your website. So this was just something that, there's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to this fragmentation and these different platforms. But the essential thing is to still have a destination for your customer journey. And I know Luke's going to have a lot to add about, he's doing podcasting and he's doing a lot with social media. So he really uses his website as a foundation for all of his marketing efforts with all these changing preferences and demographics out there. So one other thing, I don't know if anyone saw this ad. This is for Coinbase. Dustyn, did you see this ad in the Super Bowl?
I did. I was quite delighted by it, actually. There has to be at least one person at every single Super Bowl party who got up and tried to scan the TV with their phone. I thought it was a really. I was just say like I pushed another person because I was in the middle of the couch and I was just like, get up there and see what that's all about.
Yeah, I made my kids do it. Go scan the phone, honey.
I thought it was a great idea, right? It's an intriguing question mark of a commercial, using traditional media buying on the biggest biggest advertising night of the year, just to bring you to a landing page tell you a little bit about their brand and to try to get you to take that action. It's an ingenious way of getting people onto your website halfway through the Super Bowl. And actually what I found out afterwards is they had so many people scan the QR code that the website crashed. They didn't expect to have the same amount of traffic that they received during it. So, a little too successful.
So even with this really creative ad, they still had the website as the foundation, and it's going to continue whether you're trying to attract new customers, or more recently we're seeing a lot of people try to attract employees. Your website really serves as that foundation for those efforts. And Dustyn, Dustyn or Luke, did you guys have anything to add on this?
Yeah,
I
go
did,
ahead.
Peter, because that QR code was the QR codes have gone through an up and down of acceptance, and they're in right now, right? But that was a gamble to spend the amount of money that ad time probably cost to put that out there, and it paid off. Even if you didn't scan the code, you are listening to folks like us talk about it right now, and you're going to Google, who is this Coinbase people? They got traction with this, and to the point of the conversation, it was all a funnel towards their website. So whether it was you scanning it on your phone in the moment, somebody else tweeting about it, somebody posting about it on Facebook, you watching this webinar, they seeded it out there, much like the previous slide that showed Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. We're seeding content out there. This was just a really expensive mass push that happened to pay off. So just a very good. I'm glad you guys shared this because it was fascinating.
Did it lead to you buying crypto, Luke?
Oh, absolutely not. In fact, I scanned it from behind my VPN, and I'm like, okay, well, now I know what it is, but I'm not clicking it. So.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Just like as Coinbase used this, and just as an example, right? Websites are still that foundational piece to your marketing efforts, because you have to send people somewhere to take those actions, to learn more information, and to really understand your brand. And we're going to go through that a little bit more, bit by bit as we go through this webinar. But one of the things that I really think it's important, right, is that everything that you're doing with your marketing efforts, as your website, to take that action, it's a place where you're going to turn people into customers, employees, or enthusiasts of your brand.
Absolutely. And I want to bring Luke in again. And Luke, take us through. You really do use your website as a foundation. I love, when I came across the Dennis Paper and Food Service website, just seeing how it's really used as your foundation. Can you just take us through that?
Yeah. So I wanted a site, knowing the industry we're in, that could serve as a 24/7 customer service representative. Our site can tell you our company history. You can order products online. You can find recipes. You can read through a blog. You can learn about our sales force, and really spend a lot of time getting lost in it. What that serves is the content side of it, right? Seeds our message out there, and we get some SEO benefits. But more than that, even if nobody went to Google to find our site, it serves as a tool for our sales force. So in the field, it's giving them top of mind content to discuss with customers. It's giving them pages that they can direct people to in an email or in a text message. It's opened up the number of ways we communicate from my office, right, through the website, to our customers, to potential customers, to anybody who finds us. But it's also opened up doors for our physical team to have a resource that has, in essence, replaced paper. So from the outset, we wanted something that would well represent our business, and then also serve as a functional tool for the sales team. And as we've been talking about, the whole point of this is no other way to say it other than everything must come back to your website. That point can't be any clearer. And I'll say, because there might be some confusion around this, the popularity of micro pages, right? Going out and buying lots of little URLs because it fits with a marketing idea or a kitschy brand tie-in to your main website. Just be careful of that. Microsites are okay, but you don't want to dilute your brand's ability to communicate the overall message, because you never know what somebody might be interested in. I can guess what might be happening in the moment based on trending information, industry data, and put that on the homepage or up front somewhere. But I still have to be prepared that any visitor at any time could be interested in discovering something, that we're not putting out front and center, but I still have to have it there and accessible.
That's a common struggle, that information architecture and that user experience. And Dustyn's going to talk a little bit about that, sort of taking that customer journey through your website. So that is always a tough one, and one of the biggest challenges when we're building websites.
Yeah. In a nutshell, though, the blog post, the podcast, everything goes to the website, even if it has another publishing platform, whether that platform is YouTube, right? Embedding that YouTube video in there. For the years, I joked, because I really have never cared about YouTube views, right? It is the best free video hosting platform available. And so for me, the YouTube views, we're not setting out to be a YouTube star, but the content that we're making, that my chef makes in our test kitchen, no better place to host it. You have a note that I'm sure we'll talk about making sure your website is friendly across devices, and a lot of cross-device functionality. YouTube does all the heavy lifting on your video editing. I remember the days when you had to upload your video to your own server and make sure it was small enough that people could download it, and then they had to have the right codecs, and then came Flash Player. But anyway, yeah, everything's got to go into your website, and then you can put it out to the world anywhere. But you never want to miss the chance that somebody coming to your site could see that great piece of content.
Yeah,
that's great. That was before my time. I've always when you had to upload the video and not use YouTube, that's great. That was before me.
I thought I was going to change the world with Flash. Really, Macromedia Flash. Oh yeah.
Well, that's great. Dustyn, as our creative director, you're going to kind of talk a little bit about the flexibility, why we love websites as really a flexibility, or the flexibility of websites as a medium for branding. So why don't you kick that off?
Yeah. So, I like to take that step back, right? And we're talking about a lot about functionality and marketing efforts, and a lot of things that we're talking about today, of course, is all going back to your brand and the significance of, like, what is branding, and what are we talking about here when we're talking about websites and branding? Well, the one thing that I always try to get across very early, of course, is that branding is much more than just a logo. It's more than just design. It is that holistic approach of the organization's perception. And when you take a look at it that way, your website, completes your brand and is really that foundational piece, because everything else that you build around your brand needs to have a home. And there's no easier and more flexible place than to have it online. Because one of the things that I find, there's no other medium that allows you the freedom to express your brand like your website. Tweets have 280 characters. There's only so many inches on a publication's page to really be able to give them, share your message, and to be able to have a customer or an employee get to know you, or a potential employee to get to know you. And your website allows you to immerse people in your message, your design, in your mission. And it really is the one place where you can house everything, just as Luke put it, for all the content that goes out there, it goes back to the website, and all of that material that's out there can be embedded on that website too. So you can keep that sort of library for people to come and look through content, get a good idea of your, of the experience of working with you or being a customer for you. There's really no end to it for a website compared to any other media that you can find that you can throw your brand out there. And one of the things, as Luke sort of talked about it in those micro pages, and sort of making sure when you're thinking about your website, you have complete control of your customer journey, and you want to provide the best journey for them to make a decision, to learn about your brand, to have easy access to communicate, and to reach out to sales teams, or reach out to human resources. Having complete control over your client journey is super important. And your website can be that vehicle for many of your marketing efforts. So it needs to be acknowledged that, you know, your journey is going to be super important. One of the other things that I think is really important for this is it provides a way for for users to interact with your brand. More than likely, you know, people are spending more and more time online. And this is one of the few locations where you can have that like direct communication. You can submit information, you can ask questions, you can, you know, obtain resources. It's something that, you know, the limitations is really to what you want to provide the user versus, you know, what the platform is going to allow you to provide. And that's something that, you know, every business or organization can take advantage of. And then, of course, you know, it provides you the ability to create a design that separates you from your competition. So all the marketing efforts that you throw out in all the different media out there, you know, all of it should feel at home on the website. It has that brand consistency. And, you know, you can really show the creativity of your brand and really make it that stark contrast. You know, we showed that GIF earlier, and you can kind of tell a difference between ones that put a little attention in detail into their design and ones that are just sort of throwing it together there and just so they have an online presence. So it's important that, you know, the medium itself is very malleable, and that allows you to do a lot with it. So as an organization, as a brand, you know, there's no better place to be able to express it than your website.
You guys mind if I jump in real quick?
Go right ahead.
Just real quick, Luke, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat now. We're gonna, at the end, Tommy's gonna read through them, but I'm guessing Luke has a lot to unpack there. I think that's why he wants to jump in. So if you have any questions,
yeah, I didn't want us to get too much further down before we got to some of that, because I wanted to touch on the furniture company, and I think it touches to a bigger thing that we have to keep in mind, right? In that we're all different size. The people that might be watching this, they're different sized businesses out there. There are different business categories. There's different approaches. There's different financial situations. We can't understate the importance of having a website. However, we can't set the expectation too high for the wrong types of businesses. So, for example, with that furniture website, one looked like this high end, maybe you order it online and it's shipped to whatever, or a very premium shop somewhere in a city. The other one looked like a local furniture store that were doing the best they could given the resources they had and needed to have a web presence. So which furniture store would you choose? I don't know. Do you feel like ordering something online, or you're going to drive down the street to get it? If you are that local store, and to the point of differentiating with design, there are the Wix and the Weebly's. I think Weebly got bought by Square. The freemium building template sites out there that when you go, it's pretty standard layout for the whole choice of options, even across the different vendor sites. It's a big picture, it's some buttons, drag and drop. It's easy, it gets you a website, but it is rather homogenous. To differentiate yourself, again, using that local commercial or the local furniture store, use your own content, use your people, use your modern smartphone that takes many megapixel pictures, and put those into those big photo areas. So if you can't differentiate with physical design, with the HTML, CSS architecture, differentiate with content that is original to you, that is truly your business, your people, your words, and that will be enough to get you that presence, that brand presence that you need, again, depending on the size of organization that you are, as you approach your website. So I just wanted to make sure to make that point, in that, you know, not everybody should look a certain way or expect their website to behave a certain way. You have to work within your capability, and then over time, really chip away at it, and don't forget it. You know, a bad website can become better, but not if it's just published and left out in the field to do its thing all alone.
Yeah.
What I would say is, you know, I guess, and, you know, if do you even need some actually organizations, I think it's better to maybe not have a website in certain industries than to have a poor website. For instance, if
Can you
you're
give
a
it a,
home, yeah, I can give an example, like a home builder, local home builder, and I think it's really what your goals and objectives are. If you're a local home builder, you're just trying to keep your company as yourself as a person who's managing all the project. You could just be on Instagram and have a very successful business that way. So it's really where you are at as an organization and what your goals are. And if you do have kind of an outdated website like the First Furniture Store, I think Luke's advice is good. At least go onto Squarespace and use a template, or Shopify and use a really modern template, and just make sure that it really, in the best way from the resources you have, really represents your organization.
Yeah.
and to that point, there could be businesses out there that don't or wouldn't benefit in any way from spending it. For example, I like old radios. I have some old stereo equipment, and so I'm looking at stereo repair. There are not a lot of antique stereo repair businesses on the internet, so those guys can be pretty minimalistic with their websites. I'm talking like 1999 Angel Fire kind of stuff. It's to your point, Peter. You might not need a website, but given how inexpensive they are, and that that placeholder, that domain name looks good on your business card, you could just be doing it for giggles, the contractor making some money on the side, posting on Instagram, or just getting started and the website is in the back of your mind. But even if you are just getting started, you have to fast forward yourself. Where do you want to be in 5 years? And if you want to get started now with your side hustle carpentry business, but you hope to be making a full-time go of it in 5 years, and you're going to do that website down the road, well, in that 5 year from now point, you're going to wish you had that 5 year buildup of content to seed your website and your stuff out to the world. Even if it's a post a week, a post a month, right? It adds up. It's the old Chinese proverb: the best time to plant a tree is 35 years ago, the second best time is now. So you have to consider the buildup of content, because I'm telling you, nobody wants to make a new website and think about, okay, we need to write 30 blog posts to go in this. We need 20 podcast episodes before we can even put this live. You can avoid that situation. So there really is no right and wrong. That's just my thought.
No, that's great. Dustyn, did you have anything you want to add to that? Or
Yeah. So my point, I think, is good, is that, when we're talking about websites, we're talking about improving business, we're talking about being competitive in the space. I agree. I love your suggestion, Luke, is exactly that, is that, like, sometimes, you have a lot of limitations in front of you, and the best way to do it is still keeping it brand focused, keeping it authentic, having authentic photos, using authentic messaging, stuff that comes from your organization that is locally recognized. People that work with you know that it's true. Those are the differentiators that I find to be important, that no matter what scale of website you have, you can always incorporate some level, of your branding in there without having any experience in building websites or writing. There are ways to incorporate parts of your brand that are going to improve your business or organization, no matter the scale. I think that it's important that's a key, and that kind of brings us to our next part, where talking about messaging, because exactly as you said, bringing in the voice, making it authentic. Your website really should be the house for your brand voice, your vocabulary, it's not just what you're saying, but how you're saying it and who you're saying it to. And your website is a key place for that to take place. Like I said, all the other media, there's only so many characters in tweet. There's only so much you can say, but you can really flesh out, go into detail, really express your brand in every facet of it on your website. And it's a really important thing that websites are not just for looks. It is really important that they are able to convey, the expertise, a lot of the differentiators for businesses and for organizations is not just how they look. We all get tracked in by the book cover, but it's really the content of the book that keeps you to stay and keeps you coming back to it. And that's something that every business and organization has power over, which is important. And sort of to throw it back to you, Luke. We know that, one of the things that I loved when I looked over at Dentist Paper and Food Services is that it's a unique site for your industry, and you've had a big part of that with the content. Can you express a little bit more about how Dentist Food and how Paper and Food Services really uses the medium to provide that sort of brand experience and convey the messaging?
Absolutely. I should preface that I've been doing this for long enough that I have to try to remember sometimes that if somebody's just getting into this, it can seem daunting to try to approach your message, your content creation, all the stuff you'd want to put out onto this website of yours. But I can just say, you got to tap into your honest, true beliefs about your business and what you want your customers to believe. So for me, it's, tapping into building a set of beliefs that I know food service customers need to have before they make a decision to choose a provider. Or if they're already a customer of ours, the criteria that need to be met for an item or product to be attractive or useful to their business. So for me, I set out comparing or reviewing the industry at large, competitors, cohorts, how they were approaching their website, and the general architecture of it, the visual nature of it, and the information and resources that were being shared. And one of the big things that I noticed was it was very cumbersome to get anywhere that wasn't a private online login where you would see products or a customer form. Like, they weren't giving away anything useful to the people running these businesses. And I took my experience, right? And I said, well, I know, given the power of the internet, that anybody who is searching for what I offer or considering a business like mine is going to choose what they are going to choose, and I cannot control the mouse in their hand. So instead of presenting all of the information that this industry is presenting to every customer in the same way, I'm just gonna show them how we feel about food, how our company thinks, what our culture is. And so instead of setting out to create a business navigation website, I wanted to create an experience. I wanted something that was formerly a chore, right? Because you listen to people, you pick things up. Oh, that website, every time I try to log into that thing, my mouse slips off the menu and I have to go back through again. And you find out what annoys people and what they'd rather see. And so I created something that takes people on a little content journey. I was talking to somebody yesterday right here in my office who said, boy, I was on your website the other day and I went down the rabbit hole. And I said, oh, that's cool. That's why I built it that way. But I also built it to be quick and responsive. And if you needed something immediately, boom, there was a button for that. So in a nutshell, I wanted to share who we were in a very visual format. I wanted it to be touch friendly for modern devices. And I didn't set out to sell anything, right? I put some awareness pieces out there, but there is no buy now button. The only pricing for products you'll see on my website is on the first page, unless your customer is actually logging in to go buy something. I put thousands and thousands of pages of content together because I want to help the restaurants and food service businesses that we work with grow. And if they like that kind of stuff, then chances are they're going to become a customer. So that's how I approached it. And not everybody has the luxury of having a sales force that can go out and do the selling and take orders and tell people, hey, you should come to our website and buy stuff. That's a physical sales force is a game changer. But it really doesn't change the fact that when it's your business that you're talking about and you want to differentiate from a world of competitors, the only thing people care about is your honest system of beliefs, right? Your honest product delivery. Nobody believes anymore that your customer service is the best because you strive for the ultimate and integrity and da 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 da. That doesn't do any good. They'd rather see a blog of you cleaning the carpets, in your hotel than try to be the best of whatever. People want to differentiate with character and personality. They want something to get emotionally attached to and invested in, and they want to know that it benefits them more than you to use their website, which I think is true of my website. So anyway, that's my long answer.
Yeah, thank you
It's
for that, Luke.
It's a
I think-
fantastic long answer. Yeah.
Yeah, your website's very unique, and the passion of the company, I think, for the industry really comes through in it.
I have really old earbuds, so now I have to the AirPods, the original ones, I have to take it out and charge one and switch. So I'm not hanging up on you.
So I think we have about 10 minutes before we're going to go to Q&A. We want to just quickly talk about building trust and creating value with your website. I know we've gone into value a little bit already. I said this statistic to Dustyn, and he thought I should include it. And that's 81% of retail shoppers conduct online research before buying. The overwhelming majority of retail customers start their journey with online research. And that comes from GE Capital. And they help retailers with financing for their products. So if you're going to go buy a bike, they might help the retailer finance it. So, the point there is that people are shopping online, or if they're looking for a professional service company, or if you're a retailer or a local service company, they're conducting research. They're trying to figure out if you are a trustworthy brand, one that they can trust to fulfill whatever service that they're looking for. So trust can really be an amazing asset for an organization. Dustyn and I were preparing for this. I said, Dustyn, we'll think about the trust Facebook or Meta now has versus Apple. Apple's a brand that has a lot of trust from their consumers, where Facebook and Meta, arguably maybe not so much. And think back to that gift we shared. Which furniture store would you trust more? I know Luke's point is maybe these are the local guys that are a little bit cheaper, but just that for me, that it's very clear which one would be I would trust, and my wife would trust when we're looking for furniture. So Dustyn, we want to just talk a little bit about some ways to build trust. What did you have?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I think, going back on it, and Luke, you've talked about it a lot too, is just really reinforcing that organization's mission and brand story. It's really being your authentic yourself. It's bringing that truth out. It is communicating to people authentically, and that, within the messaging, that's like the first place where I find you build trust, with the users who are going to be on your website, regardless of, whether they're going to use your services or not. One thing that I do think is important, and I know we're talking a little bit about design and what's capable, what's possible for people. I think the barrier to entry for modern design, even if it's very templatized, is still something I think everyone can kind of aspire to, especially when we're talking about competition. When you don't have competition in your field, or you don't have a lot of competition that's higher up, in your exact line of work, it's easier to get away with, an older website, a less functioning website. But the more your competitors have an impressive experience on a site, the more you have to think about, how am I providing that experience to my customer? So I think that is an important part, that when we're trying to gain trust, making improvements, making those updates, making content, trying to keep your website current is still important for building trust as an organization. And then, of course, brand consistency. Like I've said before, your website should be the home for all of your marketing efforts. Everything that you throw out into all the different media should feel at home here. It shouldn't feel any different. It's very jarring if you see all these different advertisements, you see, you have a conversation, you hand off a brochure, a business card, anything, and then you go to the website and it looks completely different, or it's, or it has a completely different vibe to it, or the messaging is completely different than what you are experienced to get you there. It's really important to keep that brand consistency throughout, and that, to me, is the make or break for most brands. Is kind of like, as you put it, right, when you leave a website for too long and you don't improve it over time, you don't improve it, it kind of lose that, it can lose part of that trust if it's not keeping itself up to date.
Just items that I had is high quality images, getting away from the generic stock images. If you have to use stock, try maybe not to use the generic ones that everyone's using. If you can, get personalized images, get images of like Dennis Paper. They've got an image of the whole team. It's pretty cool on the warehouse floor. Get images of people in the office, of your products, of your team. And the other thing I had is just make your team members known, at least your leadership team, if you can, if it's appropriate, the wider team as well. It really helps, build, just let people know who they're going to be working with.
It's nice to see a human on the website. Yeah.
Dustyn mentioned this, but just keeping the website up to date, it's important. And I don't necessarily know if that's with brand consistency, but that I think really reflects on your brand. Are they the type of brand that takes the time and attention to provide value through their marketing and are consistent with it? And then we're always telling our team, and I know Luke, you've been a creative director before, the devil is really in the details with your website. And that's going through it on every single device and making sure there aren't any issues. That might mean making sure that, you're using best practices like securing your website with HTTPS, and making sure that it loads time. The load time is really fast. So with design and branding, and Dustyn talked about differentiating yourself from others. A lot of times the devil really is in those nuanced details that really make a website look polished. Luke, I'm guessing you have a lot to add to that, but
I got a bunch of no's, but you guys did a great job covering it, and I want to make sure we leave some time for questions. So I will say, if you are working on your website, considering building a website, over-reliance on stock is the quickest way to start losing trust, especially stock of people. You really have to show your team. If you don't have any people photos, wait until you can get some. Don't use stock people. Have an email address, and this doesn't, you have to pick your industry. Not everybody can have it out there, but have an email address. It's a real address. Contact forms. Again, depending on where you are in the customer journey, email addresses can get a lot of spam. Contact forms. A phone number, if you want phone calls. Those little touches, right? Convince people that you are a real business, a real place. Real people are going to answer the phone. There are a lot of choices out there, and not all web users are savvy enough to tell the difference between what's good for them and what's not. You really have to do your part to make it easy for them to see that you are the good guy, and that reaching you, contacting you can be done in real easy ways.
Then just a little bit on bringing value. Dustyn, do you want to kick this off?
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and speed through it. Really, when I think about, how does your website bring value to users? I think of sort of the three things: action, information, and communication. It provides people a place that you can, purchase, you can apply for a job, you can take an action, and it benefits both parties. Information, being able to have that detailed information, fleshing out your brand, really being able to communicate, what you do, how you do it, and what you stand for. And then, of course, communication, as Luke just put it, having easy access for communication for your users is super important. And, you have to also think about too, what is the convenience for, your team as well. So, making sure that there's a communication channel, whether it's a live chat or an email or a phone number, whatever is going to be the best that you're going to respond to your user the fastest, and be able to answer their questions. So those are the three things that I think, when we talk about websites, those are your easy value builders.
Yeah, that's well put, Dustyn. I call it honesty and showmanship, right? You get honest, you get really good content because you get granular, you get into the weeds, you peel back the curtain, pick your analogy. That is what people want to see. That was, the social thing earlier where we saw the creep up of TikTok and Instagram. You know, attention spans are going down, but people want to see more. They're watching the Youper up in the peninsula, right, that is doing the snow shoveling, eh? And she made the national news because she was just filming herself on TikTok. People are for lack of a better, you know, they're bored, right? But your business is interesting. Your customers think you are interesting, and just because you're in it every day doing the thing you do, doesn't mean that it's not interesting to somebody else who can't see it. And you know, that's the forest through the trees moment where you're like, okay, I know what I should talk about now. So many people who have a website never continue with their blog after 3 posts because it's too hard, or we can never think of what to write about. Baloney. There's never nothing to talk about. You've got a business that is doing something. You have a product you're creating. You're an artist who's making something. You want clients to come in, talk about all the ways and means that you go about your day. And that's where the content comes from. So you talk about the brand story, right? You're not going to populate all of that on day one. You might have a little bit of about us, maybe a history section. You can't rehash that history over and over and over again. Maybe you can do a throwback Thursday every once in a while. You can't hang your hat on your about us section because people are going to get bored of that statement, right? It'll become boilerplate over time. So you have to show them what you're doing. You have to talk to them. You know, that's why these platforms are great feeders to your website, because you can go on social, you go on Facebook and go live and say, hey, everybody, our new shipment of widgets just got here. Go on our website to see what we do with them next, or whatever, right? So you have to bring them into your world. They have choices, and they're going to veer towards the active people, the active businesses. And again, this is just generalization, because you could be in an industry or category of business where you're the only one, and you just want a nice website. But that brand story is important, and that's a hard one for people to see. And it's especially hard when they think they have to talk about their brand on a weekly basis. But it happens all around us. You know, research is really one of the best ways you can see to what other people are doing in your industry. I love LinkedIn for that. Professionals are regularly talking about how they approach content with their clients, with their other businesses. And you can learn a lot just from browsing other professionals. But that brand story is really important for building that trust. And just one more point, how I use it, right? And my massive website, which is huge, you can get lost in it. I loved the Choose Your Own Adventure books as a kid. So the way I build trust is I don't serve up content to people. Hey, here's the special on this, here's that. I just put it all into my website. I have to put new stuff on the homepage, right? Because we let people know stuff is new. But after that, it's anybody's guess where they go on the site. And I know that's a good thing, because when they get to that last page before they exit out, I know they probably saw something that they wanted to see. So they're building trust because they're getting to content that they want, that I put out there, not that I'm forcing them because it's the only option. And I think if you've got the time and the topic to create enough content, you'll find that's a very rewarding way to build customer loyalty and trust and an emotional attachment to your business.
That was great,
Well
Luke. I guess just one last thing that I'll add is, you know, when I think about bringing value, and Luke certainly touched on this, it's just educating your customers, providing valuable content for them. And I know Luke does that very well with the dentist paper and food service website. Just my notes on that, where really think about who your target audience is when you're creating that content. For example, we could have done a webinar on DIY websites, or I guess really DIY websites, but we're really looking for people who want to take their website to the next level and really ensure that it lives up to and really becomes and completes their brand. And then just, I think Luke's mentioned this before, just make sure you create a variety of content on different mediums. I do really well with video. Dustyn's more of a reader. He'll like blogs and ebooks and guides and all that sort of stuff. So just really having a variety of content on different mediums and making sure that those are all on your website. But it's really making your website a resource for people to want to come back to more and more.
Your smartphone is going to be a great tool in that. You've got a reminders app, you've got a notes app. hey Siri, hey Google, write down your ideas, take those pictures. Maybe it's not, you could be a DIY operation. Go out and get yourself the best smartphone, Samsung, Apple, doesn't matter, and start taking pictures, and you're going to have really high quality stuff you can use. If you're an organization and maybe you're the marketing manager for a multi-million-dollar business, or same approach, take pictures of the things you think might be interesting and write the words describing why they're interesting, and share that with your agency or your marketing team so that they can be inspired to help extend that story. Not everybody's going to be able to see the messaging that needs to be put out there, but you're never going to see anything if you don't start writing down your ideas and taking photos and videos and getting active about it.
Luke, you have a great presentation that you did. Was it with Hospitality Maine?
Yes.
Where could people find that? That kind of goes into that topic further.
That they can find right on my website, dennisexpress.com, and you can go to /podcast, and right in there will be all our podcast episodes, and it's there and available.
Well, fantastic. I know we are getting to that point where we have a couple minutes for question and answers. Tommy, I don't know if you want to jump back in.
Yeah, thank you guys. Excellent presentation. Thanks to all of you. We had a few questions that came through, and I'll tee it up with this. There were a couple people that are asking if you could show us your website, Luke. So maybe if you could do a screen share, maybe pull up your website, or maybe Peter or Dustyn can do that.
If you guys don't mind doing that, that'd be great.
Some of the questions were sort of pointed more towards some specifics, but let me tee it up.
One of these numbers.
One of the questions was if you're speaking to using personalized images and photos versus stock photos. If you use personalized images from project photos that show client, projects, or people, can you provide guidance on obtaining permissions from clients or people who appear on the website?
Yeah, absolutely. So we keep a stack of release forms just handy in the photo worthy areas, or in the briefcases of the people that we know might be having a camera in hand. And I think we've used all those super prepared forms maybe once, right? Very rarely have I personally been in a scenario where the content that would be created and shared would need to have that typical release. But then again, considering all of the organizations that might be watching, or considering web and copyright practices that have increased, especially in Europe, it is a consideration for that. So you have to just have frank conversations. Hey, do you mind if I make this part of my whatever effort? And the thing with the internet is it goes away over time, right? That social post gets buried, that homepage banner changes. That's the way I approach it. I am very much not I don't know. I like just having conversations with people, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't get really detailed about this. I move so fast. I don't worry about the little details. Like there's just too much happening, and I think people are more jazzed about being part of something than they are worried about looking bad, and which is really that's the biggest thing holding a lot of businesses back from going live on video, which so many businesses in New England could benefit from the use of video during the summer season, spring tourism season, but so many people are scared to do it. That's off topic, but yeah, you got to ask permission. And if you work for a hospital or a place that really has to be aware of that type of stuff, you just have release forms everywhere, and you train the people who might be creating the content to make it a natural, non-awkward part of the day. Hey, if you want to be in here, you got to sign here. That's it,
Yeah, I would say a lot of the organizations we work with have this written into their employee handbook. It's going to be pictures taken around their office. It's usually written into an employee handbook, which can just be a great thing to have in there. And then if we are sending a photographer from our team out, they're going to have release forms if it's not someone from the organization. I know, if you're using stock, then it's using a reputable stock company. Don't use the free ones, because and if you are for some reason going to use a free one, really make sure that you read the copyright on it, because there's going to be Some will be allowed for personal use. Some might be allowed for commercial use. So I guess those are really my tips there.
Excellent. We have a few questions, but what we'll do, gentlemen, is we'll take these questions, compile them, and I'll put them back out to you. And then you guys can answer them the next day. We'll put those in the wrap-up email that we send out to all the registered attendees. But I think we have time for one more question. It was talking about website analytics. Can you maybe just quickly discuss website analytics and show which pages get the most views, demographics, geographical locations of visitors, things like that? You know, and maybe this is a good example to use from Luke's website.
I love the power of website analytics, but I don't rely on them. They are my canary in the hole, my litmus test. It is a proof that I'm going in the right direction or the wrong direction. And I don't get emotionally attached to their movement. It's nice to see growth, right? But if I'm not in there watching the numbers every day, that doesn't mean that it's my business is changing or anything. I've seen too many people get hung up on not getting the numbers they were hoping for, or not getting the pull through they hoped for. You have to use analytics, unless it is your job and you're paid to analyze website analytics. You have to use it as something that says, over time, am I doing this right? Over time, are people interested in these things? And then once you get comfortable with dissecting the content, you start looking at, okay, where did they go once they got on the home page, and how many pages in did they go? And you take it as a detective, right? As an interesting dissection of what you've created, and not as something that you are going to use to make your business better, because your business is not, you know, and that you're selling stuff on your website. Yes, that obviously ties in. There's retargeting and all that stuff. But in a nutshell, you cannot get stressed about analytics. You have to just trust that if you're doing all the right thing, the blocking and tackling, the messaging, the content, the social, and driving it back to your site, over time, you're going to go up in those analytics, and you'll be able to go back in and learn from them.
And look, I would just say, as your website is really, and how you use it as a tool for your sales team, the analytics that matter the most is how helpful is it for the sales team as a support item, and
100%.
how much is it helping to move the needle? Because it's, you know, your website makes it so that the salespeople don't have to chase leads. They're providing value to leads. Hey, we just did this podcast. Hey, our chef just came out with this recipe. So, you know, that's where it has so much value there.
The sales graphs that we have eerily line up with the analytics charts, which eerily line up with the insights on Facebook. Like, all this stuff comes together. And I guess that's the point of the whole thing, right? The website is the foundation for the potential for customers and existing customers to interact with your business. And when you start looking at, like, those analytics, the insights, the data, you start to see how that stuff lines up, and you start to see how the story you shared led somebody to this page where they filled out a form or they bought a thing. Very rarely are we putting stuff out that is buy this, buy now, special price, because it's an organic journey, and it's a trusted journey when you're not forcing it down their their content throats. So it is analytics are very, very interesting, but you can't let yourself get stressed over them.
For us, Dustyn, what's the tool that we recommend? I can never pronounce it right. It compiles all the analytics into a really easy report. Is it Swidu? We recommend that tool. It's a tool that marketing people can take and make really simple reports for executives that can be sent every single month. But we use Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics and Google Search Console on every website we do. When it comes to making your website become your brand and complete your brand, one analytic we're going to look for is how, going to the behavioral aspects of Google Analytics and seeing what journey users are going to be using through the website. How many pages per visit are they viewing? How long are they being on the website? Is that with this new website we've created, is that increasing over time? And then also, every website we build, we do conversion tracking with, so we can say, how many emails were, tapped on, how many phone calls were tapped on, and how many form submissions were sent. So as far as, this could be a whole topic in itself, but as far as branding, that's kind of where the analytics I would be looking at.
Well, thank you guys very much. I'm going to ask if you guys could take the screen share down, and I'm just going to say a few final words, but excellent presentation. I think it generated a lot of questions and a lot of good ideas. Again, we'll address some of those in the post-event email. But just a reminder that today's presentation has been recorded. It's going to be available for replay on the Chamber's website and YouTube page, and a copy of the presentations and other additional details, answers to those questions will be included in that email you receive later. And a quick plug for all of our upcoming Chamber events. Be sure to check the Chamber website calendar for all of our great events, and even better, when you're there, sign up for our newsletter. Thanks again to everybody for another great episode of Eaton Peabody's Growth Basics for Business, and to everybody for attending today. Just another shout out for our sponsors, Eaton Peabody, as well as Anania Bailey, and thanks again for the great presentation. We look forward to seeing you at our next Growth Basics on Tuesday, March 15th, where we'll hear from Claudette Ndeye of the organization In Her Presence. She and a panel of experts will introduce how your organization can be more welcoming to new Mainers in the workplace. Have a wonderful day, stay warm, and enjoy the rest of your week.